Hello. Hello everyone. How is everybody doing? So today we are here with our guest and this is the first session of live camera or kahani. So I hope everybody will enjoy with Valsaraj Sir. He's here. I'll invite him very soon to the live. I hope everybody will enjoy and get information about photography and much more. Let's take him in. Wait for him. Hello, sir.
Yes, I seem to be upside down. So,
Yeah, so a camera a little bit means so if you can adjust
okay.
it, sir.
Will it adjust itself?
No, no, sir, you have to adjust it manually, sir.
Okay. Let me see. How do I do that? Now it's upside down. So I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. All right. Now you can see me. Good.
Yeah, sure.
Oops.
So again, it
Okay.
yeah, now it's good.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to change this such that I can hold it. Oh, I don't have to keep holding it all the time.
Okay, sir.
Okay. All right.
Okay, sir. Shall we begin, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so first, can you, sir, introduce yourself, sir, means to the audience, what you are doing currently and how you went into photography, sir?
Oh, okay. All right. Um, I'm from India, basically, originally, but I've
So,
been living in the US for the past 42 years. I
mm-hmm.
did my undergraduate and graduate education no, undergraduate education at IIT Madras, and then came to Vanderbilt, did my PhD, and since then have been on an academic career here at Louisiana State University. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
professor of chemical engineering, but I've held a lot of positions, including department chair and vice president for research and economic development, and a lot of other things. But
Okay.
overall, during all this time, I also had a passing interest in photography.
Okay.
But since about 10 years ago, I took it up more actively as a kind of a hobby of sorts, also because I do plan to
Mm.
retire from my position here after
Okay.
40 years of service. So uh, I've had this interest from my early childhood, but never pursued it to the extent that I am doing now. So I've
Okay.
traveled very widely all over the world, and during this time, I've been pretty much photographing and keeping things in perspective. My research area is environmental conservation and
Okay, sir.
chemical transport. So that has a lot of implications as to what happens to birds and animals and conservation in general. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the main aspects of my photography as well, is to bring together what I know about what's happening outside of this world, and trying to portray the environmental conservation efforts that a lot of photographers are doing that. So I'm part of
Okay.
that. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, my first question would be, so how did you came to know that photography is your hobby? Because not many are doing that. So,
uh, well, I was given a small camera many years ago when I was a child.
Okay.
And I used it pretty much just as a toy of sorts. But when
Mm-hmm.
I came here to this country, the very first thing that I bought was a small camera that is Minolta XGM, which they don't even make it anymore. Minolta doesn't exist, but
Yeah,
it was
it's not available. Yeah.
right. It is an SLR, but everything was manual. Everything was manual. So I
Mm-hmm.
learned photography pretty much on that camera. I still have it in my collection here. Beyond
Mm-hmm.
that, as I pursued my photography in terms of taking pictures of mostly portrait photography was what I was interested in at that time, as well as nature photography. I started to acquire more and more equipment, and once the DSLR came along, I was much more. It was much more easier to carry it along with me for my
Yeah.
professional travels,
Okay.
and I would take pictures. So that's how my interest in photography developed over time.
So what's the lens or the camera body that you are using now for the audience?
Oh, I use two camera bodies. My primary camera body is Olympus OM1 with the recent 150 to 400 lens, the
Okay.
constant aperture f4.5 lens, which is extremely wonderful for bird photography. The second lens the second camera that I use is a traditional Canon now R6 Mark II with their lenses, but I don't use the
Mhm.
Canon as much as Olympus in bird photography. That is my
Mhm.
most favorite camera.
So you are means currently you are doing the photography in your current location or you travel to do the photography?
I travel quite a bit. I travel not only within the state of Louisiana, but all over the continental U.S. as well as the rest of the world. In fact, this
Okay.
year I just came back from a long trip to Kenya to do some
Okay.
safari photography, and which was extremely interesting.
So so you told you travel the whole world. So what do you learn while traveling and doing photography at the same time?
As I said, my basic interest is trying to see the migratory patterns of birds and how they are affected by climate change and changes in weather patterns around the world. So,
Mhm.
to me, uh, documenting some of these things, and especially, of course, finding rare birds is an interesting aspect in
Mhm.
itself,
Mhm.
exercise in itself, but my interest has really been to understand what kind of species exist and how they change their migratory patterns over many years. So I do a lot of research before I publish these things, and if you have noticed my IG feed, I do have notations behind it, essentially
Yes, sir.
talking about what I had observed and what's the reason for that particular picture.
So coming to your bit personal life, so from India, did you move yourself outside the country or it was child?
I moved in 1980,
Okay.
1980, so it's been 42 years. I came here as a graduate student, so and then later on when I got married, my wife moved here with me. We have two children,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so that's our current. That's where I am.
So, can you give a idea about how do you capture moments of the birds because birds are not found still and they keep continuously moving. So how do you capture that moments?
It is, I mean, bird photography is, I know it's unlike most of the other photography aspects. It's something that
Mhm.
you are not going to be able to determine what pose or what kind of a situation you're going to photograph. So you
Mhm.
just have to got wait. So in most
Yeah.
cases, I do find a location where I've been, where I, of course, I have some guides or somebody who would tell me where you can find these
Mm-hmm.
rare birds or birds in many parts of the world. And
Mm-hmm.
then to the extent I will look for and keep, um, pretty much wait for the birds to appear in that location. But since you
Mm-hmm.
have gimbals now, it's easier to
Yeah.
move your camera around. And so it's not a fixed position, it's somewhat of a place where you can move around and take the best pictures. The shots are
Mm-hmm.
generally, I mean, I take a number of shots. It's just, you know, since you have burst mode now on cameras, especially on
Mm-hmm.
Olympus, you have a 50 FPS, frames per second burst mode. So pretty much you can fill up your card in no time.
Yeah.
Then I come back here and then I process the pictures. And of course, everything is raw. So I have to take it through Adobe
Yep.
Lightroom
Yep.
and other software.
So have you ever come across means the situation where you are planning to take a shot but you didn't get a shot that day? How do you feel?
Oh, there have been several instances where we keep waiting and the birds never
Yes.
show up. So many hours we will spend in the field trying to capture something, but we'll come off with no shots particularly. But you'll get
Mm-hmm.
some other shots, some other birds or some
Mm-hmm.
other things that you're looking for, and you make do with it. You can, get some shots, but not the birds that you probably were looking for, and that's happened many,
Mm-hmm.
many times. It's a disappointment, but as a bird photographer, that's one of the things that everybody tells you. I mean, they
Yep.
all the pros will tell you that yeah, you cannot capture the bird in one attempt. You'll have to wait and
Mm-hmm.
try several attempts. So
So have you, so means as in now you're so long you're doing photography, how did you come to IG and just started thinking to post about photography?
um, IG came to me probably about 10 years ago. I started putting pictures on my Instagram post, but it was not something that I really was after. So I started to post some things, and then I realized that some of my friends were asking me, "Well, why don't you post some
Mm-hmm.
more of these good pictures?" And so that's how I started. And today, I think I post most of the pictures that I take every day, almost, because I've got tons of posts in my pictures in my on my camera and on my in my computer, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't process many of them. So when I get to process one, I put them on. That's what I do.
So I can see a picture of Taj Mahal behind you. So have you
Yes.
visited all the places in India till now?
Not every, but yeah, this picture is my own picture. I took that last
Okay,
time
so
we visited Taj Mahal. Uh, but India is one place that although I was there for 23 years, I haven't traveled quite a bit in India. Especially when you
mhm.
were young at that time, travel was difficult. But now it
Yeah,
is much more easier to travel in
easier.
India and
Yeah.
visit places. Yes, I do have a lot of places on my mind to come and travel, and I come there every year. My mother is still there, so I come to I'm basically from Kerala, so
Okay, so
yeah, so I go there every year. And now, for a couple of years now, we have been coming to Kerala, visiting my relatives,
mhm.
and then traveling other places to take pictures. So you'll see some of my IG shots from India at time
Sure to
actually.
catch you up when you are in South, sir, because I am living in Bangalore currently for studies, so
Okay.
hope to
Yes, yes.
because
Actually, I'm not that far from Bangalore. I'm in
yeah,
North
yeah,
Kerala, which is closer to
very
Bangalore
close, yes, sir.
than any other place. Yeah.
And okay, sir, that's a part. But coming back to the thing, so how do you manage when the lens, as in there is a process to keep the lens properly, as in who those who are newly birds photographer,
Hmm.
they don't know how to handle the lens. How do you keep it more proper? What's the process behind keeping everything, as in the equipments?
Um, the I basically carry about 3 lenses.
Okay.
On Olympus, it's micro four third. So most of the lenses are fairly small and compact, even though you
Mm-hmm.
have a high reach. I mean, it's twice the reach of my Canon lenses. Most of the lenses are kept in here in this country. It is not very difficult, but when it comes to India and
Mm-hmm.
other places which are very fairly humid and hot, you really have problems with lenses becoming damaged or that sort. So I know I have properly I've never lost any lenses as a result of any environmental effects, but I've dropped them and broken them. But other than
Oh,
that, nothing else really. These lenses right now, I mean, the lenses that they manufacture, any of these manufacturers, Canon, Nikon,
mm-hmm.
Sony, Olympus, Panasonic, everybody, they are very robust. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
um, the sensitive equipment in there are so robust now that it doesn't go bad that easy.
So now you have a full-time photographer, or still you are currently doing something side by side?
I still have a day job, and that is being a
Okay,
professor
sir.
of chemical engineering. So
Okay, sir. Okay.
I haven't retired yet, but I do spend a lot of time on photography besides teaching my classes and doing my research. But I'm slowly winding
Mm-hmm.
my professional career in academics, slowly winding it down. So I'm hoping to move pretty much completely into my hobby and photography pretty much once I retire. So right now I still I do have a day job. Yes.
Okay, sir. As in chemical engineering is a totally complete different field from photography. So how do you think it's relatable? Do you think it's relatable because there is a something research in both the things? So do you think it's relatable, sir?
Oh yes, it's highly relatable. I mean, I'm a researcher by my profession. I mean, I do a lot of research. I mean, I publish
Yes, sir.
quite a bit in my chemical engineering world. So it is the same thing I bring to photography too. I mean, I do a lot of research. Even after I process something, I do think about how to present this, and those are all
Mhm.
things that we as academics teach students as well as do. I mean, I have a very good professional career in chemical engineering where I published over 250 journal articles and done millions of
Mhm.
dollars into research. So it's not a it's not that far from where what I do right now. I mean, it's very relatable, very much. Research is
Mhm.
research in both cases, and as I said, trying and tying my own efforts in environmental conservation with the photography
Mhm.
pursuits that I have. That's my basic research connection.
So, do you think photography is a good career as a full-time photographer?
I, I'm not really sure how I can answer that because I'm not a professional photographer yet, where I make money
Mm-hmm.
out of it. But
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of people who give very good advice. I mean, one of those people that I follow very diligently is Sudhir Shivram, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and he has several advice for young photographers who are interested in entering taking photography as a professional career. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of money really if you're going to do marriage photography, wedding photography, and
Mm-hmm.
professional portrait photography. Those things you can make. You'll have to have a studio. You'll have to invest in it to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a bird photographer or a wildlife photographer or a nature photographer, you really have to approach um, famous
Photographers,
magazines
magazine. Yes.
or yeah. Now I'm doing some work for Wildlife Photography magazine,
Mm-hmm.
but I've just started it, which means that it will probably go on for several months or
Yeah.
probably more
Months
than a
and
year or
months. Yeah.
two before it will come to fruition. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that you have to do, but making money out of photography, I mean, I'm not really worried about it in the sense that I have a job, and
Yes,
even
sir, that's
after I
right.
leave my job, I have a pretty good income even from that, from my retirement. So it's not that I'm worried about how to make money from photography, but if it is a
But
pursuit and
sir,
an interest.
if if you talk from the perspective, sorry to cut you in between, but if you talk for in perspective of our generation who are just going
Mhm.
directly for photography, so what do you think then?
There's a lot of opportunities, extremely good opportunities, especially for youngsters who
Mm-hmm.
are interested in photography, because um, if you are genuinely interested in pursuing a certain subject, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you're interested in a particular rare bird or a rare species that is going to extinct, or are in in some kind of trouble over the years. Well, you then
Mm-hmm.
have to approach the right kind of um,
People, the group
yeah,
of people.
people. Yes, and then you will really have to figure out whether you have the time and the effort that you can spend to get some good photographs that would capture their interest. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to write for a magazine, then you have to think about what you're going to write. And it's just the
Mm-hmm.
same as writing a journal article in my field. We spend a lot
Mm-hmm.
of time trying to figure out how to write it, and who is going to read it. And
Mm-hmm.
so there are lots of opportunities for youngsters, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and especially for people who are in the field, coming onto the field now. The equipment is really, really good, so you don't have to worry about what kind of equipment you would need. It is just what subject you are going to choose.
Mm-hmm. So now, as in the photography is not that big yet, as in till now, people are not taking that much so seriously. But what do you think in the coming future?
There's lots of new technologies that are coming into play, and
Mm-hmm.
people who are interested in photography will find that especially those who are interested in technology will find that in the coming decades, the photographic pursuits will most likely involve not just still photography as we do, or video,
Mm-hmm.
but there may be a lot of other things that would come through. So there are opportunities really for those people who are technologically inclined to
Mm-hmm.
really make a great impact in photography in the future.
So a quick some I'll ask you this or that. You have to answer so for
Okay.
some really quick is so DSLR or mirrorless cameras.
Mirrorless.
Okay, so for smartphone photography or DSLR.
I would go for DSLR at this point in time still, because of the smartphone photography is catching up, certainly.
So what do you think? As in, I got a question from this only. So this smartphone photography is booming up very quickly because of the resolution that the Apple is providing to the phones are quite good. So what do you think in the
Right.
coming time?
I haven't spent a lot of time in smartphone photography, but from what I've understood and what I'm hearing is that
Mhm.
just as DSLR eclipsed the SLR, and further DSLR was eclipsed by the mirrorless
Yep.
revolution, cameras are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller.
Mhm.
I mean, for example, the one that I carry, my Olympus, is so light that I can pretty much I just have one carry-on baggage, and everything fits in it.
Mhm.
As that effort goes to reduce the size of the camera, I think the smartphone photography will over time pretty much become the standard for a lot of people. And I think some of the professional photographers are also seeing that and taking advantage of that. But the problem is you know, you have to be able to, I mean, if you use a mirrorless or a DSLR or an SLR, you can take pictures in different formats. And then you can go
Mm-hmm.
to Adobe or Lightroom and process them and make the photograph look the way you want it. Just like you
Mm-hmm.
were developing film photography. I mean, films have to be developed and you have to do it the right
Mm-hmm.
way to get the right picture. The same way,
Mm-hmm.
but smartphone photography hasn't come up to that point yet where you can actually manipulate the pictures as much as you could from mirrorless or DSLRs. So yeah,
So do
there's a future in it, but I'm not yet convinced that that is the future at this point in time.
Okay, so got your point. So do you think you are inclined towards wildlife photography or bird photography more?
I'm more inclined towards bird photography, but I do both wildlife and bird wherever I go. For example, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's no, I mean, even if you're looking for a bird in a particular place, it doesn't mean that you don't find wildlife in the same place. So you have to keep both options and both of those things open. The only difference in
Mm-hmm.
wildlife photography is that the locations and the places where you go may be much more remote than where you would in your if you're doing bird photography, because you can do it from a
Mm-hmm.
distance and do it from certain locations. But
Mm-hmm.
wildlife, I know you, there is no place. I mean, you have to go
Mm-hmm.
where the wildlife is. So travel will
Uh,
be a very important component there.
So do you use Facebook, sir?
I use Facebook. I don't put a lot of things in it on it simply because I don't have that much of um, what I would say. Um, I can do a lot more on Instagram, and of course, Instagram and Facebook are the same, pretty much owned by the same company. So, if you put something on Instagram, you can actually share it on Facebook, and that's
Okay.
what I do at some time at points. I
But
don't want to put too many pictures there. That's it.
coming to Instagram reach, sir, nowadays reels are in boom, sir. What do you
Yeah.
think the photo that we community as a photographer, I am running a community, so I come across a lot of photographers daily, sir. As photographers, we post photos and we are not so real addictive. Do you think that is destroying a certain part of our community?
I certainly think so. I mean, Instagram, as I started on Instagram, I was mostly just photos and not reels. But
Yes,
I
sir.
realized that the software that they use and the algorithm they use pretty much prefers reels all the time.
Mhm.
And that really has disappointed me considerably. And I've heard that from a lot of other photographers that
Mhm.
reels are pretty annoying, and that putting them up is not the way to display our photographs.
Mhm.
I prefer photographs certainly, and you might see on my Instagram site
Yes,
almost everything
photograph.
is photographs. At times I put reels on when I see, for example, I went to Kenya recently, and I had lots of pictures and I wanted to portray all of them in one shot, but then
Mhm.
put them in sequential shots don't make any much of a sense unless there is something to back it up. And I tried a
Mhm.
couple of reels. I wasn't very happy. I still am not happy with anything I put on reels because you have to get a lot of things right. And putting just reels on for the sake of
I think it
people
doesn't.
who, yeah, it doesn't make any unless you're selling something over time.
Mhm.
And of course, yeah, somebody mentioned Vero. That is true. I'm also on Vero, but it hasn't caught on as much as Instagram. So I'm still trying to learn the ropes there.
Mhm. So then, what do you think? Means, as in the coming time, will you continue your hobby as an hobby, or you will take it as a mainstream?
I'm intending to move more and more into photography completely over time. And as I said, I have a few projects in mind that I already have a contract with people. So
Mm-hmm.
I will probably take it up as more of a continuation of my research career. I mean, trying to
Mm-hmm.
document certain things. For example, this is something that we have been working on. Global climate change. That's a part of my research. A big part of
Oh.
my research in chemical engineering is how climate change is affected by a lot of things in the atmosphere and atmospheric chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
same things do actually have an effect on birds and animals and how they react to this climate change in the future. So that is a major part of my photographic career too, in order to explore the aspect of how bird migration is affected. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the way birds migrate is also an harbinger of what would happen to us in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a kind of a research career that I'm going to introduce into my photographic pursuits as well.
So you told you are working on magazines. So what kind of magazines we'll get to see from your side, so in future?
I'm working on several, talking to several folks, but many of them have to do with wildlife photography and bird photography and associations like the American Bird Association and other associations which actually do this kind of work, documenting what happens to the birds and bird species as the climate
Mm-hmm.
changes, gets affected and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So now, again, coming back to cameras, camera part or the
Yeah.
camera guide. So I'll see it camera guide better. So what's the three? Everybody says third grid line. So what's that? So do we have to follow that in a simple photograph or not?
Oh, the rule of thirds, you mean?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
sir. Yes.
Yeah, the rule of thirds is as a general concept in photography, but it comes from some ancient art forms where art was displayed in such a way that if it was placed on one third of the picture or whatever, it would give you a different perspective, either looking into or looking away from things. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, in photography, generally, if you follow that rule of one thirds, you will take some good pictures. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't necessarily have to be followed to the hilt. I mean, and if you want to portray certain things, if it is a singular subject, yes, rule of thirds will make a big impact. But if you have multiple subjects in the photograph, generally the rule of thirds doesn't apply all the time. So it's a general perception, a general way of for putting your photographs for people to see and appreciate, but you don't have to follow it to the hilt. I mean, I don't follow the rule of thirds all the time. I take the picture and then figure out, well, if it applies, if the rule of third applies, then yes, that picture looks
Mm-hmm.
good. If it doesn't, I don't just discard it. I figure out, well, I can make it look better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't have to be 100% followed all the time,
Mhm. So what's
especially
the
when you, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
continue, sir?
Oh, no, no. I said no. If you look at many of the professional photographers, they do
Mhm.
tell you the same thing. I mean, yeah, it's a guiding principle, but not the one principle that you have to follow all the time.
So can you explain 3 points where where anyone is starting photography, they can look into to get a good photograph of anything they want?
Of course, Nat Geo sites, the National Geographic sites, every picture that you see there is a professional
Mhm.
photographer who has spent a lot of time and effort trying to get them online and getting them there. Now, there are a lot
Mhm.
of professional photographers also who run workshops, and if you participate in a few of those workshops, they will provide you a lot of information. I mean, that's how I
Yes,
got
sir.
started too. I participate in a lot of workshops. And even today, even though I do and take pictures, I go for those
Mhm.
workshops. I'm actually going to Southeast Arizona in a couple of weeks to participate in a workshop, essentially trying to understand how to position yourself and how to do certain things. So I keep learning. So workshops from professional photographers is a very useful kind of place where and they will also give you a lot of information on how to uh, advertise your pictures and
Mm-hmm.
how to get them
How
to
to
the audience.
monetize it. Okay, so
Yeah, monetize that and all of that. So it's a very useful thing.
how do you came to know there is a segment called bird photography? Because when you came into photography, that time I didn't, then means I'm not so fast that that time it would have been in your knowledge. So
I was always interested in birds and other things. My mother was
okay.
very quite interested in keeping lots of pet birds and things like that when I was young, and I had an affinity for them, but I really didn't pursue it that much until I figured out that yes, there's a there's an effort in understanding how they react to the changes in the environment that we provide. I mean, human beings are
Mhm.
changing the environment quite a bit. You know, global climate change is a
Mhm.
result of some of the things that we do. So,
Yes, sir.
how does that affect other biota and wildlife, and how does that impact them? That is the kind of thing that I'm very much interested in understanding. And so that's how my interest in bird photography and wildlife photography came into place.
So
But
uh,
yeah,
coming to India, so where do you think you'll get the shot you have imagined? Means, as in, where is the place you want to visit in India now? So
I've been really wanting to visit the Ranthambore Tiger Reserve
okay.
and the Bharatpur Bird Reserve, two
So
places
any
that I
reason for
really wanted to.
Ranthambore?
I haven't been to either of those two, and I'm
Okay,
trying
okay.
to find the right time to come and do it because for me, having a career here in educational efforts and a university career,
Mm-hmm.
our career doesn't allow us to just drop everything
Yeah,
and
just
leave.
fly away so quick.
So when it's summer there is when it's summer here, it is really hot
Mm.
over there.
Yes, sir.
So really it's a little difficult to do it, to coordinate it well. So I'm trying to do that. Once I retire, I'll probably be more in India, traveling
Mm.
around, and especially my wife and my family. They want to travel as well quite a bit. We have traveled, but we want to travel. I've traveled about 36 countries already in terms of
Okay.
places. So there's another 150, 160 countries still left. So
Yes.
there's a lot of places that I want to visit. And India is, of course, I mean, being my motherland, that has
Mhm.
so much to see, and which we haven't seen in India, and it's becoming much
Mm.
more easier now.
So, means as in coming to the last topic, so I'll wind up the series as you joined the live. It was great, sir, for me. Explaining your part. So again, how do you learn photography? Because not everybody is getting the guidance, not everybody is getting to the workshop that they want because due to the high charge, sir, because I have seen the
Mm,
charges of paid as
yeah,
in photographers, it's very high. So
yeah.
how would they get the knowledge of photography?
There's a lot of information on YouTube and videos that are
Mhm.
publicly available, and that is one major source of information. I mean, there are professional photographers who have put a lot of things on YouTube, which tells you how, when, what to do, and all of that. There's so much on YouTube. But then you
Mhm.
also, if you join certain organizations, like for example, in the U.S., it is the Professional Photographers of America (PPA).
Mhm.
You join them; they have very good, nice conferences where you can go and participate in and listen to a lot of very good talks by professional
Mhm.
photographers. You don't have to pay a lot. It is your entry fee into uh, into those kinds of things. And of course, there's a lot of other venues now where you can go online and get information. And of course,
Yeah.
Google is Google, so you have
Yeah.
everything on it. Uh, but the way I've learned it, of course, I know what you're talking about, the expense related
Mhm.
to workshops and other things. But you
Yeah.
don't have to go to several of them. I mean, make yourself comfortable going to one or perhaps two in a span of about 4 or 5 years, and you will learn a
Mhm.
lot from that. And I will tell you
Mhm.
that there are wonderful workshops from a lot of Indian photographers who have,
Mhm.
I've not participated in them professionally yet, but I've heard about them and heard the value that they provide. But then, as I said, YouTube is a general source. You have so much information on it. You
Mhm.
follow one person, and then there will be a lot of information just on his or her photography, which you can use.
So last three, I mean, I think three tips that you would give to any photographer, whether it's professional, whether it's starter, that they should keep in mind always while they are clicking photos.
The first thing is, why do you want to take that picture?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Are you just taking this for the sake of taking a picture, or are you
Yeah.
actually going to present it in some particular format to somebody who will be interested? That's the first thing. Second
Very
thing
important.
is, second thing is, how much effort are you going to put in order to get that picture? I mean, are you just
Mm-hmm.
going to be casual, or are you going to be very determined to get that particular shot? A lot of
Okay.
people give up after a couple of times as, this is
Yeah.
not working, so let me
It's
go.
not coming.
And the
Yeah.
third, yeah, and the third thing is, what do you do with that picture in the end? I mean, are you going to just take a picture as a JPEG and put it on somewhere, or are you going to take it and then
Mhm.
as a raw format and then spend your time and effort trying to make it look professional? Because, you know, in the earlier times when we were using film photography, and I've done that in the past, and that is, you take a film, then you have to actually develop the film. Only then a
Mhm.
picture becomes a picture, right? That's
Mhm.
exactly what you're doing with your Lightroom and Adobe and all of those things. I mean, you are taking the
Yeah.
picture, but then you're processing the picture. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of effort in processing the picture. It's not
Yeah.
just putting it on Lightroom and saying, okay, automatically come up with something. It doesn't work. Uh,
Yeah.
so so those three things you have to remember. Why are you taking the picture? What are you going to do with it?
Mhm.
And finally, are you
Mhm.
prepared to really make it stand out from the rest of the picture?
Mhm.
Otherwise, a picture is a picture. Nobody will really care unless
Mhm.
you make it look good.
So I hope you liked the session, sir.
It's been very wonderful. I mean, well, let me thank you first for inviting me on. I
But
mean, um, it's been a wonderful opportunity, really, to tell those who are following me and those who are on this live stream as to what
yes,
I think photography should be and how it should be pursued, whether
yes,
you're
sir.
taking it as a professional career or as a hobby or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that photography is an art, and of course, I'm a scientist, a chemical engineer. So
Yep.
for me, art and science blends together when I
Yeah.
enter into photography, and that's the beauty of it. So I'm glad that I was able to spend the time with you. Thank you for inviting me, and I hope the rest of the
So it was
folks
great
who
being here.
enjoyed it as well.
Yes, sir. It was even great here, sir. We
Thank
got a
you very
lot of
much.
information. Even it was informative for me too.
Yes, of course. And as I said, next time I
Yeah.
come to India, I'll certainly make it a point to come. Wherever
Yes,
it
sir.
is, we can probably chat or see each other somewhere and exchange
Yes, sir.
ideas
Hopefully.
more. And I'm
Yes,
a
sir.
student all the time, so
Even I am a student, sir, just pursuing my degree, sir.
good, very good, very good, very wonderful, really wonderful. Thank you very much, and glad you're putting this on so that others can enjoy and see
So
some of the
with
things
your
that people are doing.
with your permission, sir, can our team post this as a permanent post in our account?
Absolutely. So go ahead, please
Okay,
do it,
sir.
and send me a link so just I know where it
Okay, sir.
is.
Sure, sure.
Okay. All right.
Okay, sir. Thank you for
Thank you very
joining, sir.
much.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
You too.
Yes, sir.